Hi everyone. Today I am going to talk about important metrics that is precision and recall. Before we move on to the precision and recall, there is an important terminology that we go through. Those are true positive, true negative, false positive, or false negative. To understand this terminology, on right hand side you can see the table on top. So on left side we have the model prediction and on the right side we have the actual, that is the ground truth data. So if you will take the example of cancer patient, if patient is having cancer or not cancer, to to that scenario, like for example, model will predict that patient is having cancer and that result will match with the actual ground truth data, then we can say that it's a true positive. When model is telling that patient is having cancer, but it doesn't match with the actual ground truth data because ground truth will tell that patient is not having cancer. So model is falsely predicting positive, that is the false positive because patient is not having the cancer, but model is telling patient is having a cancer. A third is false negative, like when model is predicting that patient is not having cancer and the ground truth is telling that patient is having cancer. It means that model is missing to predict the patient is actually having cancer. So that is the false negative. When model is telling that patient is not having cancer and that result will match with the actual ground truth, then we can say that it's a true negative. So those are four important terminologies like we are going to use into the precision and recall. So let's move on to the precision. So what is the precision? Precision tells about like your model's performance. So when we will calculate the precision, so we will focusing on like model's prediction, positive prediction. That is, that will be true positive or model is predicting falsely positive. So we will consider both result, and we can say that out of this total result, how many model is correctly predicted. So that will tell us like model's performance. So precision will be true positive divided by true positive plus false positive. So this true positive plus false positive represent model's actual positive performance. That will be correct as well as false positive prediction. So in this scenario, like we can see that like patient is actually having cancer and that matching with the ground truth, it's like 90 patient. Model is correctly predicting 90 patient that is true positive and the 30 patient that's not having cancer, but model is telling it's having cancer. So model is wrongly predicting positive. So when we will consider this total summation, that is true positive plus false positive, and out of this total summation, how many are correctly predicted by the model, that is 90. So 90 divided by 120, that represents the 0.75, and that 0.75 it's nothing but 75% of the precision. So in other words, you can say that of all the patients predicted as a cancer, uh, of all the predicted patient as a cancer, that is like true positive plus false positive, how many were correctly predicted? How many were correctly predicted by the model that are having actual cancer? So those are the 90 patients. So 90 divided by 120, that is the 0.75. Second, recall. So as we have seen that precision focus on models total positive prediction, while recall will focus on total ground truth positive clause. So here in this scenario, we can see that model is predicting cancer and it's matching with the actual ground truth. So those patients are 90. Model is telling patient is not having cancer, but in real life patient is having the cancer. So those 10 patients are missed by the model to correctly predict as a cancer. So model mm, didn't correctly predict these 10 patients who are actually having the cancer. So in real scenario, if we will see that total 100 patients are having cancer, so out of total 100 patients are having cancer, how many correctly predicted by the model? So we can see that 90 were correctly predicted by the model because 10 didn't predict correctly by the model. So 90 divided by 10, then we will get like zero point 0.9 or the 90% recall. So in other words, you can represent recall as like of all the actual cancer patient, like we have 100 actual cancer patient, how many were correctly predicted by the model? And these are like 90 patients that are correctly predicted by the model. So out of 100, 90 were correctly predicted by the patient, correctly predicted by the model. So that is the 90% recall. So a recall you can call as sensitivity as well as true positive rate as well. I hope this tutorial will clear like what is the precision and recall. Thanks.